Greetings and welcome to the United States Transhumanist Party Virtual Enlightenment Salon. My name is Gennady Stoliarov II, and I am the chairman of the U.S. Transhumanist Party. Here we hold conversations with some of the world's leading thinkers in longevity, science, technology, philosophy, and politics. Like the philosophers of the Age of Enlightenment, we aim to connect every field of human endeavor and arrive at new insights to achieve longer lives, greater rationality, and the progress of our civilization. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our U.S. Transhumanist Party Virtual Enlightenment Salon of April 23rd, 2023. Today, we have a special panel for you on a recent visit that was made by our Director of Sentient Rights Advocacy, Tom Ross, to Dhaka, the capital of Bangladesh. First, I would like to introduce our panel to you. Along with Tom Ross, we have myself, Gennady Stoliarov II, the chairman of the U.S. Transhumanist Party. We have our current vice chairman and director of visual art, Art Ramon Garcia. We have our legislative director, Jason Geringer. We have our director of applied innovation, David Shoemaker. We have our secretary, Brent Ellman. We have our technology advisor and foreign ambassador in Spain, Dr. Jose Cordero. And we have our director of foreign relations and foreign ambassador in Bangladesh, Dr. Sharif Uddin Ahmed Rana. Welcome to everyone. And Tom, I know that you are fresh from your flight back from Bangladesh. I believe you went via Istanbul, which in itself is a fascinating city to visit with a lot of history and fascinating contemporary developments. So I would like to start the salon by just asking you to tell us about your trip, the chronology of your trip, and some of the highlights that you experienced there.
Well, yeah, great. And first of all, special thanks to Sharif. While I was there, I sent Gennady a note saying, do we have an award for outstanding foreign relations directors? Because if we do, I have a nominee. And, Sharif really rolled out the red carpet for me. His staff, they were just so professional and kind. And even though it was a holiday, Ramadan, they still came into the office to provide me services and just very kind staff. So, birds of a feather flocked together there. And, I felt very important. As soon as I got off the plane, I was met by his security team and I was ushered through, to the visa on arrival office and then to his car and whisked away to a luxury hotel. And I just felt very important the whole time I was there. And this man, Sharif, has put me in front of very important people. It took me through the halls of power there in Dhaka in Bangladesh. He's very well connected. He owns that city, it seems, from everyone from the prime minister's office to a central bank to the heads of vice chancellors of major universities there. It was just a very full week of meetings and talks and, going to see some of his sites where they are producing sustainable housing for, low-income people. And it's just there are a lot of 11 projects or more that he's got going there. It's just a very fascinating trip. I had to rewatch my daily video vlogs that I did while I was there just to remember everything that happened because there was so much to process. And so it's very special thanks to Sharif and his staff. This whole trip was just an amazing experience for me. And as a representative of the USTP, it was a very important trip, I think, for our movement and our party. So one of the first things we did was to meet with, the vice chancellors of universities there in a couple of different days, and very important meetings to talk about the importance of focusing on students and young people, which is a big platform in my campaign, of treating digital natives, young people, as digital dignitaries. And I'm going to have an opportunity to go back and speak with students directly. And because it was the holiday, there wasn't a whole lot of access to being able to do that. And So we got to meet with the prime minister's people. She was out of the country at the time, but he also got a note while I was there that she wants to meet with him on May 8th. And so we'll be following up on that. And so her whole initiative is to create a digital Bangladesh. And she's really making a lot of movements toward that. She is creating tech cities, which are economic zones, which are tremendous tax incentives to increase foreign investment and human beings to come over and take advantage of these tech cities. And so it was just a packed full week of visiting sites, meeting with very important people. And so I think it's a real opportunity for us as a movement, as transhumanists, to focus a lot more on this Southeast Asian area. There's 2.5 billion people in that market, just within 3 countries. And they don't have the negative a view of transhumanists. They don't think we have a dark agenda. They don't, not that we've seen here in the States and in the Western world. And so it's a good opportunity for us to really focus on that area, to promote our cause and our movement. And I'll be making an announcement where I am creating, under the auspices of US 6 Industries, a catalog, and I'll be inviting transhumanist inventors and service creators and thinkers to sell their wares in this catalog that I can promote at the February book fair. And then there's another fair that's combined India and Bangladesh in July. That would be a good opportunity for transhumanists to show what they're doing and to ply their wares in that 2.5 billion market. And so it's a great opportunity, and I'll be producing that in the next couple of months. And we'll be inviting as many transhumanists to get involved with this as possible, to create ads, to do articles on certain ideas and inventions. And so it's going to be a good opportunity to really push our agenda and our movement in that market. And so, with that, I forged strong relationships with 2 of the biggest universities there in Dhaka, Dhaka University and a technological university. Great meetings with them. And one thing that Sharif is really pushing hard there is the idea of more research, not just focusing on just writing papers and where people are just transient there, where you'll come in and you'll leave. That he wants to focus them more on research and development, which is very important. And we're seeing that happening in India, where they are developing more research opportunities for their people. So rather than just being used for cheap labor, they are investing in their people and in research so that they can create projects and products that can be sold directly from the country. And so that's a big push for, and I saw Sharif really push this idea with the universities and with the staff and even with the prime minister's people. So he's a great spokesperson for research there. And it's very important. I'll let him talk about that more. But all in all, it was an extremely valuable trip. Again, there's so much that happened that's hard for me to process it all yet, but I'll be doing that more over the coming week. And the idea that came to me at the end was the real potential of using transhumanist inventions and service ideas. And Dhaka is really a microcosm. It's an example of what the world will need to focus on over the next 100 years or more. It is the most populous city in South Asia, and so they have a lot of need for new ideas. They have a lot of need for sustainable housing, how to properly use the resources they have at hand. They have like 80% of the fresh water that comes through that region comes through Bangladesh. And so they need to understand how, the next war we know won't be over oil. It'll be over water, fresh water. And so they've got a lot of potential there to manage their resources properly. And so it's really it's a microcosm of what the whole world will have to be dealing with overpopulation. So it's a good opportunity for transhumanists with brilliant ideas of how to test and measure ideas that they have that will help the whole world over time. And whatever works, there's opportunities for what I call the transhumanist Mecca. And I asked, and it's okay to use that term in Islam, where a transhumanist village, a complete town that is created by transhumanists to test and measure ideas like an AI augmented governing system, socially generated services, all kinds of things that can be done to test and measure and to try to scale that will help the surrounding community in Dhaka and eventually the surrounding community of the world. And so there's a lot of great partnerships forged, a lot of great introductions made, thanks to Sharif. And so I will be focusing more on that. And as with my campaign for the nomination for the Transhumanist Party, I will be using the idea of inviting transhumanists to use my campaign to test their ideas, whether it's an AI-generated advisor, whether it's anything that would help the campaign, and use that as a proving ground. And whatever works for the campaign, we will present to the Prime Minister for their digital Bangladesh idea and concept. And so it's a good opportunity to just use this campaign to test and measure a lot of these ideas and services. And with that, I will hand it over to Sharif and pick it up when it's needed.
Thank you, Mr. Tom, for your great tour. I just want to share a few of the important things, because we are from emerging economy. And what I see in the global economy and the global politics, especially, we need good leaders for the global communities. If you see this Russia and Ukraine war, you see that Putin or the many political leaders, they have lack of empathy. That's why they're doing that kind of like war and all of the killing and everything. Even in our first meeting, I share why I invite Mr. Tom, because leaders should involve with the emerging economy, and the leaders should involve with the grassroots level people. When Tom came, actually the weathers and the situation not so good. He did all of the hard work, because our weather that time very hot. He visit that time different cities and different projects. He engaged with lot of people. He had lot of meetings. So I believe that this is the process. Tom involved with the emerging economy. He grows some sort of empathies and some sort of good leaderships, which is important for the developed world. And that's why I want to invite more the Transhumanist Party's leaders to country like Bangladesh or South Asian countries, because as this is the political platform, first we need to develop good leaders who can help the global communities, who can understand the peoples. But still, I believe that how the other big political parties process they have, they do not understand the global culture and different global community properly. That's why I believe this is a good opportunity to Transhumanist Party, because here in South Asia, you can easily engage with 2.5 billion people. And most importantly, 60% people actually youth. They are the future. So Transhumanist Party is still in growing stage. The more we can invite or we can engage with this kind of activities, it will be more productive. Beside that, I think Tom also visit our Prime Minister father house, right, in Dhanmondi. He get the political history, how our father of the nation killed by the army person. I think he visit every corner of the prime minister father's house, like Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, like his son house and present prime minister's bedroom and everything. This is another learning that because we have lot of unstable situations in the global communities. In 1971, from my father, I heard it's a very complicated history. In one hand, USA politicians they do not want to be independent, Bangladesh, or the on the other hand, there are many good American people who developed the concept for Bangladesh, like George Harrison, and they give money and donations to our Bangladeshi people. So USA economy is very big. USA have lot of good people. That's why I involved with Transhumanist Party. When Tom come, I represent Transhumanist Party in that way. Number one, I say to my people, look, these are the people, they are very good scientists. So we need more scientists who can help my community for our healthcare system, for our housing, for our a lot of problems they can solve. Second, what I learned from Transhumanist Party, they never lie. They are very good human. They try to help people. And number three, they have better policy. This policy actually help us to uh, develop better society. So this way we can transfer knowledge and everything. I think Tom visit our Prime Minister office. They are very happy to collaborate with Transhumanist Party. Uh, I think he meet with some largest university like Dhaka University. They have 40,000 students. Asanullah University, they have around 30,000 students and they are largest foundation in South Asia. Beside that, he visit lot of projects and specific persons and which is helpful for our development. But one thing I have in mind, you have to understand that our economy, our people, and everything is still growing. We need more of your help. And USA, they should not involve with this wire or defense thing manufacturing. They should involve more like emerging economy. And I'm sure the world is so big, those who support this kind of project, what Tom actually gained as experience, they will be part of the history. And maybe after 50 years and 100 years later, people gonna remember you for your contributions. So let's work together. Let's rebuild the world. Uh, let's make the new world because we need new political system, new social system, new innovative solution for our society. The world is so big and we have many good people and I want to welcome you all in South Asia in near future. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Tom, to visiting Bangladesh. And I'm sure you are inspiring so much of people. And I think you will be happy when people hears that Tom will go for, there is a possibility go for presidential elections. He wins some vote from prime minister office. When he, like we are driving inside the road, many people come and the children come and say, hey, I see him in Hollywood. So it's very interesting. They say someone said he's Arnold Schwarzenegger. Someone said, "Oh, this is MacGyver." So this is very interesting journey for all of us. People really enjoy with Tom. Am I right? And when Tom wore the Punjabis, he visited mosque. Everybody like him. So much of people actually miss him in Bangladesh. So see you soon, Mr. Tom, and all of the Transhumanist Party members. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sharif and Tom. That was an impressive account of Tom's visit, and hopefully in the history of Bangladesh, there will be at least a brief mention of the famous transhumanist Tom Ross and his visit to Bangladesh in the year 2023. So I'm sure our panelists have a lot of questions. I will start out by asking Tom about his impressions of the academic scene in Bangladesh. In particular, one of the pictures he shared was this one of Dhaka University, which has some quite impressive architecture, and I'm certain walking around this campus would have been quite a beautiful experience. But I'm curious to hear more from you, Tom, about the kinds of discussions that you've had there, as well as your impressions of the academic curriculum, the focus of that curriculum, and what you think the professors there are looking for, what you think the students are looking for.
Well, yeah, it's a very fluid situation right now. I know that it's very political. The appointments of certain vice chancellors at Dhaka University specifically. Now, because it's the holiday, there weren't students on campus. So it wasn't a lot of opportunity to speak directly with them. But that'll come. And we had a really good meeting with the vice chancellor there, who may be moving to a different position he's a pro-vice chancellor. He may be moving from the administrative side to the academic side. And so I was a real history lesson. We sat down and we had a very short time with him, maybe 45 minutes or so. But I got a good history lesson of what they were dealing with in Bangladesh. And we talked about the fresh water issue. We talked about, just we had just come from the Father of the Nation's house. And it was a very dark realization for me, knowing that the CIA was involved in that assassination and that murder of his whole family. Now, thankfully, his daughter, who is now the prime minister, and her sister were in London at the time. And so they were spared, but there were, young children killed by the army. And it was just a very dark realization. And why you sense that there's kind of a suspicion when it comes to politics there in Bangladesh. But we talked a little bit about that. We got a real good lesson about what was happening geopolitically. And when we spoke with the vice chancellor of the technical university a couple of days prior, it was a good opportunity for Sharif to make the point about how important it was for research. And they talked about the Nikola Tesla event that they're going to be part of. And the vice chancellor there was very proactive. He's a very smart man, obviously, or he wouldn't be the vice chancellor. And so just very educational in both meetings about what was happening, the importance of research, bringing research back into Bangladesh. And, Sharif, again, was a very strong voice for that and understood what was happening in India and how to make that happen in Bangladesh. And so, but yeah, there's a real drive towards doing that, mostly from the vice chancellors, about bringing research back. Some of the staff, some of the head professors there are a little less enthusiastic about that, but that's another story. But it will happen. And so there is a real drive. There's a real partnership between the government and the prime minister's urge toward a digital Bangladesh and the universities. It's all very political there. It's all very tied in together. And so there's a real effort on both the university part and the government's part to really bring back some of this research into Bangladesh and becoming a digital Bangladesh, and the tech cities that they're setting up. Real opportunity for transhumanism there. And we also met with people from the central bank. They have a very intriguing project going on. This one building. Now, it's not necessarily related to the central bank. It's a whole different thing called Cityscapes. And it's a whole building dedicated to certain services. Very cool. And as soon as it's not confidential, I will share the videos that they have. And it's just a great opportunity to show how technologically advanced this city is, particularly. And what they're doing with these buildings, and actually moving it into full villages that are created to support sustainability, smart cities, green cities. And it's a little different than what Sharif is doing, because he's doing the same thing, but more in the private sector. And so there's a real opportunity there for transhumanism to come in, either and invest or actually set up some of these cities, some of these buildings, some of this housing, and test and measure our ideas that the world will need tested and measured in time. But yeah, there's a real strong relationship between the government and the universities there, and toward research and toward bringing back all of these necessary institutions of research to the country.
Yes, thank you very much, Tom. And for those who want to get a more in-depth discussion of the efforts to create smart cities in Bangladesh, we had a virtual enlightenment salon with Sharif as our guest earlier this year. It streamed on February 26th, where he went into great detail into his ideas and his collaborations regarding the creation of smart city and smart villages in Bangladesh. Also, Tom, you shared an image which I found to be quite intriguing. Here it is. And this seems to be a futuristic city concept for Dhaka, where you can see these terraced buildings with a lot of greenery on the sides. So this seems to be an attempt to create a kind of environmentally friendly building where there would be these walkways and people would be surrounded by trees and other plants. Perhaps some sort of agriculture could be conducted here. But could you perhaps tell us more about this particular concept and how it plays into the overall vision to develop smart cities in Bangladesh?
Well, yeah, Sharif's company, Way Housing, has a lot of projects where they are taking it vertically. There's a lot of people there, and so they need to build high. They need to build high risers, and so there's projects he has that are 10 to 20 stories high, and it will be offering ideas like this. With smart housing, sustainability, and just it's a real opportunity to let Dhaka become the touchstone for what cities should look like. There's other 3D renderings they have of their projects. This is just one I took from the internet to show an example of what they have in mind. And so, they are building up. They're going vertical. And they're offering this for low-cost housing for their population. And so it's just a very opportune time and place for this type of thing. And, it's a great opportunity to become the touchstone of what the future is going to need, what we're going to need as human beings on this planet.
Yes, and it's quite a promising concept. It looks impressive. I hope that such structures can be constructed in Bangladesh in fairly short order because, as you mentioned, Tom, Bangladesh is a very densely populated city. There needs to be a lot of vertical construction there to make sure that as many people as possible can enjoy a decent standard of living. So when you don't have horizontal space, you build up. Mm-hmm. And hopefully successful structures like these could also encourage more vertical construction in the so-called more advanced countries. I say so-called because some of them have an aversion to vertical building for whatever reason, but we need more skyscrapers in the Western world as well. We need to once again have a wave of new skyscraper construction to set records that largely in the West have not been surpassed since the 1970s. And I know that in the Middle East, of course, in Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, there have been a lot of record-setting skyscrapers, and hopefully in Bangladesh, there will be some initiatives to increase the amount of vertical building. But this is fascinating, and I wish these smart city projects all the best. Now I'm going to turn this over to other panelists to see who has questions for Tom and or Sharif about Tom's visit. So who would like to begin? Let's see. How about David Shoemaker?
Good. I found the unmute button as well. Hey, Tom, Sharif. Wow, what a What a wonderful introduction, and what great work's going on. I realized Ramadan was going on, and that obviously muted some of the things that you could do. But I wonder about, was there any opportunity to talk to local press or any other way to get the word out about the transhumanist Tom Ross visiting?
Well, there were set up some opportunities to do some press conferences. There wasn't a lot of opportunity to do that. We had such a packed schedule. But I will be going back soon, and we'll, because of the holiday, I think a lot of those people were off. So my timing wasn't great, but it was actually helped me get into certain of these areas and to meet with certain people because they weren't busy, with other things. And so there was a good and bad about the timing of this. And I left, and I was able to be in Istanbul on Eid at the end of Ramadan. So that was exciting. And so it was all in all, the timing was good and bad. But it also allowed me to meet with certain people that I otherwise wouldn't have been able to had they been busy with their school schedules and that type of thing. But yeah, there will be a lot more press opportunities when I go back, and especially when I'm going back in February for the book fair. I'm going to line up a lot of opportunities for that to promote not only my book and this catalog idea, but the Transhumanist Party in general.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, that sounds great. Just a quick follow-up. What about press release? What about we package our own content and send it out to make it easy for lazy reporters?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do that.
Yes, I'm quite enthusiastic about Tom's campaign and how it has unfolded thus far. Tom, of course, has a great degree of skill in video production and excellent graphic design, and he has brought that with him along with his quite thought-provoking messages. But Tom, you have the ability to package those messages into rather concise sound bites, which is a skill set that very few intellectuals have. And I don't believe that it's a skill set that is particularly my strong suit either, but you've somehow managed to combine thoughtful messaging with this kind of concise, let's say, media-friendly presentation style. So perhaps you could talk a bit more about that and how you would plan to leverage that skill set.
Yeah, well, I often, I need, this campaign is great for me because it allows me to converge all of my ideas. I suffer from a bit of ADHD myself. And so this campaign is allowing me to bring all these various different ideas I have into one, format. And so by having certain campaign platform planks, like focusing on young people, focusing on breaking the political paradigm of divide and rule, focusing on AI as my campaign manager, these different ideas I have are perfect for a political campaign. And so that's allowed me to, I'm a bit of a maximalist too, if I'm not reined in. But so it's allowed me to converge all of these ideas into one format, which has been very helpful personally. And so, but yeah, I think, and I'm not closed down. I want more ideas, more planks. This is going to be an open source campaign. If I win the nomination, to invite other either candidates or members to bring their passion to the table, bring their passion plank to my campaign, and find a consensus that we can all agree on. I'm not going to be just closed down to just 3 or 4 ideas. I want it to be an open source campain. And that's another idea behind this, having this catalog to invite people to first try and test and measure their ideas and their products on this campaign, and if they work and if they're worth supporting, to present those to the Prime Minister and her Digital Bangladesh effort, and to promote it at these book fairs to the 2.5 billion people in that region. And so it's a good opportunity, I think, just to use the campaign to sample the different ideas and different inventions, whatever they are. And if we can't find a way that it makes sense for the campaign, that won't matter. We'll just find a way to promote it one way or the other. And so it's just it's a good opportunity to again converge so many different ideas, so many different planks and theories and ideas and services that transhumanists have under one umbrella of a campaign, and then into a catalog, and then to promote it as part of the movement. And so that's the idea.
Yes, and this is quite intriguing. Of course, it is quite different from how political campaigns are conventionally run, but for the Transhumanist Party, that difference is a good feature because we can show our distinctiveness from the political status quo. So I look forward to seeing how that develops. Now, let us go to other panelist questions. How about Art Ramon Garcia?
Yes, this question is more for Sharif. Like here in the United States, we have what they call wedge issues, where one political party kind of takes a side of an issue, and then the other political party takes the other side, and then they sort of battle on this. So what sort of wedge issues exist in Bangladesh? I mean, here it's over abortion, it's over gun control. What sort of wedge issues exist in Bangladeshi politics that you have two opposing political sides battling each other, and how can transhumanist ideas help with that?
Yes, Sharif, that's a fascinating question.
Tough one.
It looks like we have a bit of lag on Sharif's side, but Sharif, can you try again?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Ramon. I think Tom faced some sort of challenges and some sort of questions when we sit with some vice chancellors and some other people. If you see our present conditions, I want to give you the honest feedback. Actually, Bangladesh is not like USA. Bangladesh is completely different. It's different cultures, different activities. Last 10 years, our Prime Minister did an excellent job in terms of economic developments. Yes, we have some questions about democracies and other things. And we get many investment from Japan, China, European Union, and many other countries like ADBs and JICA. So things is that our opposition parties, because of lot of improvements, they are not, I'm very honest with you, they are not in the position to go for the argument or anything. But somehow, I think, Mr. I do not want to make it contradictory. I just want to give you honest feedback. When Tom visited the Dhaka University, the Pro-Vice Chancellor, Mr. Maksud Kamal, Professor Maksud Kamal also said the same thing. Somehow there is a conflict in between USA and Bangladesh, USA politicians and Bangladesh. And it actually creates some unstable situations. But if you see the local communities, the Bangladesh communities, they are impressed by the work of our honorable prime ministers. On the other hand, for democracies and many other things, USA want, and they have some sort of conflict. So I do not know how to handle, because Bangladesh is very small. Definitely USA has more power and more activities. But in terms of improvement, our lifestyle improvement, our economic improvements, you can see that a lot of good things happening in Bangladesh. I think the global leaders and the global community support these present prime ministers. This is one of the major challenges right now in our politics we have in between USA and Bangladesh. It's not in between government and oppositions. It's between the big countries and small countries.
That's quite interesting. And it does give
Tom says the
us,
same thing, right?
it does give us,
Mr. Tom,
let's say, some appreciation for the need to have a diversity of global perspectives on the current political situation. I think all too often people in the United States, who are, in my view, at the center of an empire, however it calls itself, just like Russia is another empire and China is another empire, they have this kind of imperial mindset that we're at the center of everything. We don't need to know very much about the world. We can just kind of be locked into our own issues, so to speak. And I saw this mindset in the declining Soviet Union when I was very young. And it is a toxic mindset. It is a mindset of a declining empire, which fails its own citizens in many ways, but it still presumes to essentially impose its will on other countries and other parts of the world. And we see the problem when Putin does that in Ukraine. We don't see as much of a problem, unfortunately, when certain aspects of the US political establishment try to homogenize the world. And this is, in particular, a threat because right now, the two most powerful empires in the world, the United States and Russia, have created an impasse between themselves, which risks the annihilation of humanity through nuclear war. So it's particularly essential that we bring in other perspectives, including from Bangladesh, but also perspectives from Africa, from other countries in Southeast Asia, from Latin America, in order to provide some sanity checks on these hostile dynamics between the two empires, so that essentially these representatives of some of the smaller but more populous countries of the world will say, well, wait a minute, we don't consent to having our societies blown to bits just because the two predominant empires of the world are having a squabble. We want some input in this as well. We want some human development to happen. We want to benefit from these technologies as well, and we want to have some sort of political autonomy to chart our own course. So I think it is essential to listen to these voices, and it's essential for the United States as well, because I think the United States would have a much better role in the world if it didn't act like an empire, if it acted closer to its founding vision, the idea of being a role model, the idea of being the shining city on the hill, the idea that George Washington and Thomas Jefferson had of peace, commerce, and honest friendship with all nations and entangling alliances with none. But honest friendship is a key point there. So we need to respect the other countries and their perspectives and their ways of doing things, and at the same time look at opportunities for collaboration and growth. So thank you very much, Sharif. So it's interesting that the United States population tends to get locked into these wedge issues between left and right in the United States, but that's not necessarily the kind of dynamic that happens in other countries. I'm curious, Tom, what your impression of that has been, if you have a similar understanding from what Sharif has expressed, or perhaps if you would like to add some of your own observations.
Well, yeah, I'm going to research more why America was involved with its, with the CIA involved with not allowing it to become independent, and why it still is against the current administration, and they're using human rights abuses as an example of why they don't support the Bangladesh government right now, which is ironic, with the human rights abuses that we've incurred for centuries, 2 centuries at least, and so I'm going to study that more. What strategically, why strategically we do not back these people. Now we're seeing China, and specifically, is making a lot of investment in Bangladesh or in that region, as well as in Africa. And so now we're starting to see, Secretary Blinken and different officials going to Africa to host certain events, and we'll probably see more of that now with the rise of the economy in Bangladesh, and the really seeing all the investment coming from China into that region. It's going to pique the interest of the American administration, So for good or bad, it's going to hopefully help our relations with them, even as a almost a proxy war or a proxy squabble with China, because we're starting to see so much investment now. The Chinese, they obviously think very long term. They think over generations, whereas we tend to think really in 10 to 20 year slots. But so I think we're going to see it's good timing, at least for Americans, to now that what we're going to see more investment coming from Americans. We're going to be a lot of the government will be helping to influence investment there, just because of the Chinese investment there. And so I'm going to study more this week what it is strategically that keeps America from being completely supportive of Bangladesh. What in the past, we were really backing Pakistan at the time, and why strategically that matters. So I've got a lot of research to do on that, because it was an eye-opener to learn that the CIA, while I was there, learned the CIA was behind this assassination attempt. And so it's going to be a dark history that I'm going to be studying, and to figure out why. But yeah, I'm also understanding, it's the prime minister there has, they have been accusing her of voter fraud, or kind of packing the ballots or whatever, to win the last election, which I think she would have won anyway. But it's almost as if there's so much economic development, so much growth happening there, that she wants to be sure that she doesn't get derailed. So even if it requires some voter manipulation or something, I don't know. I think that's part of it. And so anyway, I think that I'm going to be doing a lot more research on why it is strategic for Americans not to be backing Bangladesh as much as we should be. And so I will have more to say about that in a week or so when I do all this research.
I can maybe speak a little on that if you don't mind.
Please.
Bangladesh is, you have to remember, it's in between China and India, on the other side of the Malacca Strait. Okay, and that Malacca Strait is a strategic point. All the oil that goes to China's got to go through that Malacca Strait. Okay, that's why the China's big initiative, this road and whatever you call it initiative, where they're going to other countries and making all these deals for infrastructure, they are going to want to build a pipeline through Bangladesh, so that way the oil from the Middle East doesn't have to go through that Malacca Strait. It will still have to go around India, but that's one less catastrophic choke point. That's the strategic, meaning and underlining tension.
Yeah. So why wouldn't America be involved in that? Why wouldn't we be pushing to have better relations with Bangladesh right now? If that's the point.
Well, we should be, because it would be actually in America's best interest to maybe not have Bangladesh be all super chummy with China and do that. And plus, the way that China's been doing these deals, with these other countries, there's really not. I don't know all the details, but from what I've heard, they're just like not good deals. China ends up kind of owning them. It's real imperialistic. I'd like to also touch on Janetti's statement earlier about these two sides. I don't think you can. It would does it service to to paint this like it's equally two sides, you know, that's responsible for this current escalation. It's really not. It's more on one side that is responsible for this escalation. And also, it's not the United States, it's NATO. We are more aligned with our allies than we have been in a long time. So the United States isn't acting all imperialistic, you know, like that anymore. And you know,
Yeah, I know. I know. Sharif has some ideas about China and how they conduct themselves there, and I don't know if he wants to express any of those.
Yes, Sharif, please go ahead.
Detailed issues about these things. I think few years back, 9 years before, we have a plan to develop a mega project. It's called Podda Bridge. So when we start this plan for Podda Bridge, that time World Bank first they committed to provide funding like loan for Bangladesh. Then they want to withdraw their loan, and they say that there is a possibilities Bangladesh has corruptions and things. So that time the ministers of transportations he resigned, and the present prime ministers he said nobody has to pay for this Podda bridge. I will do that. He take it as a challenge because World Bank do not pay money for these mega projects, but China support for this project. I think it's around $11 billion project. Bangladesh get maximum money from Bangladesh through the stock exchange commissions. I think where Mr. Tom Rose visit the BITA Prime Minister office, just beside there is a stock exchange commission. So they bring all of the $11 billion finance and finish this project. Then lot of investment happening because a small country finish one of the largest projects inside Bangladesh without the help of World Bank. And reality is that World Bank also lose the case in Canada because they cannot prove that there is a corruption to develop these mega projects. But the good thing for Bangladesh after these mega projects, a lot of investment from Japan, from China, from around the world actually start coming to Bangladesh. And I think Tom already discussed with the Prime Minister of Israel about economic zone, about this IT park, about this a lot of activities happening right now in Bangladesh. So this may be one of the starting point of this kind of untrust and about other thing. Yes, democracy is important. I respect that USA government always think about the proper democracies and other things. But I do not know how you want to explain the present democratic situation of every countries. Bangladesh also has challenges. I do not want to say Bangladesh is 100% transparent regarding these issues, but I want to say the economical improvement, what is happening now, we should support these things because here's people lives improving, here's many people life improving, and this is an ecosystem for everyone. So that is the important point for me, and I need all of your support because Transhumanist Party is a political party. I think the some big authority also seek help from Tom regarding these issues. Uh, maybe we can build up a new friendship with Bangladesh government and can make a better international relationship around the world.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Sharif. And now let's go to Brent Ellman, who has a question.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. It's such a pleasure to see Tom out in Bangladesh with you, Dr. Sharif, and to hear about the experience and the trip out there. Something that I wanted to hear more about, I recognize that you mentioned that there are some levels of inability to speak. You mentioned that some of the stuff is confidential, but I was interested to learn more about this catalog And most specifically, some of the technologies that you saw in Bangladesh that you might have been surprised by, or some things that they were working to develop currently, without breaching any of these confidentiality, or if you have any non-disclosure agreements or anything of that nature. I know that we've discussed a lot about the ideas of how these emerging nations are able to leapfrog over some of our own infrastructure due to the lack thereof out there. So I'm just wondering if there are any things that you saw that they are doing well that might be interesting to take home.
Yeah, quite a bit actually. And when I say it was confidential, the central bank project, it was when they showed us this video, and I go, where can I find that? Can I get that video? And he says, well, right now it's confidential. I guess they're still working through that. So it's not like the whole project itself is confidential. It's just that the way they're promoting it is not yet ready to be promoted. And so, so it's not like a confidential NDA type of situation. But that's what really one of the technologies, or at least this whole building, is what surprised me, and shows me that this is a real touchstone for technology in the future, the near future. This whole building is dedicated to meeting spaces and just everything except a hotel has. It's for conventions. And so they're going to make partnerships with surrounding hotels and things. And it's just there's spas, there's floors that are just dedicated to meeting spaces, and just very cool. And downstairs is this whole restaurant, and it's all the restaurant's called Happiness, and so it's all about having a space for happiness. It's having a space to focus on the human part of being a human. And so that was fascinating to see. And it's the kind of thing that Sharif's company is working on with these villages and these buildings, just a real opportunity. And so that was one of the things that really stuck out in my head, of just how fascinating this technology of a building is. And when I'm talking about the catalog, it's a brand new idea, so I've still got to work through some of the details about it. But it's similar to maybe the magazine we did at TAFS, where I'm going to invite advertisers, transhumanist specific advertisers, to talk about their products. I'm going to do articles about these products and services and ideas. So it's going to be similar to that. And it's going to be under the auspices of US 6 Industries, which is a branch of my company. And it's going to be an opportunity for, to promote their ideas, these products, these services, and to this 2.5 billion market in South Asia. And using the opportunity of the book fair in February, and then in July to do that. And I'll be hopefully doing an article, an interview with the Prime Minister from Bangladesh, and whoever else the vice chancellors want to be interviewed for it. And it's just a real and Janati and anybody that's of major players in transhumanism and in Bangladesh or in South Asia. And so it's still coming together. It's an idea that's just maybe 24, 48 hours old at this point. It came to me on the plane. And it's going to be a really important, I think, idea project to bring to the fold, and to help us promote transhumanism in general in that whole region. And it's a brand new idea, still coming together, and I'll look for your ideas on it too, Brent and others. And there's a lot going on. Again, with these projects, Sharif's company has land big enough for villages, and it's a great opportunity for transhumanists to come and build a whole transhuman experimental village, to try different ideas, from an AI augmented governing system to societal generated services, and just all kinds of things that we can use this land for. And so it's a great opportunity all around. And I think it's again, I keep coming back to the idea that Dhaka specifically is a microcosm of what the world will need to focus on in the next 100 years. We need to get it right now. We need to use Dhaka and Bangladesh as a proving ground for how to house people, how to house overpopulated planet or regions, how to work with freshwater resources. So it's a great opportunity for the smart transhumanist investor or thinker to use Bangladesh and Dhaka specifically to start preparing us, humanity, for what's going to happen in the next 100 years. And so, that's what was so amazing about this trip, was not only that, but just realizing, wait, this is the perfect proving ground for everything we're trying to do that we can't really do in America, because there's so much of the status quo, and there's so many lobbyists and ways to stop people from innovating in some ways, and with these tech cities and these economic zones that the government there is freeing up with tax incentives and not a lot of paperwork to start a new business there. And that's been always the benefit of being an American. It takes one piece of paper to start a business. And where I knew years ago in France, it took, many pages and months to wait to get a business started. But in America, it was one piece of paper. You put your social security number there or your tax ID number on there, and you had a business. And that's what spurred us on to become an economic powerhouse. And that's what they're doing in Bangladesh. And they're going to make it very easy for people to come there and start businesses and invest in these tech cities and invest in economic zones. And so, it was just amazing how it all kind of converged. Everything I think we should be doing and all of the planks of my campaign is perfect for what's happening in Bangladesh right now, with a focus on young people. I think they got there's 130 something million population in Bangladesh overall. 80 million or more of that are young people. These digital natives, these people who have grown up with supercomputers in their pockets. I keep saying how I'm Generation X. My childhood was analog. The solutions that I come up with are still embedded in that childhood, that formative childhood, idea, where it takes me a couple of seconds to remember to Google something rather than trying to work out how am I going to get to the library, or who am I going to ask to get the right answer. With this younger generation, these digital natives have this confidence to know that whatever question they have, they can answer it right away. It takes me a few seconds, maybe a minute to remember to Google something, And so that's why a big part of my campaign is to treat these digital natives as digital dignitaries, as to take them seriously and to listen hard to what they need. Because again, my solutions don't really necessarily play anymore, And so we've got to listen hard to the young people, not only in Bangladesh, but around the world, who have this whole new emergent species evolving that is necessary. They're developing a hive mind, a global hive mind that's going to be necessary to overcome some of the existential threats we're facing as a species. And so that's a big part of it was just the understanding of all the convergence of the potential there in Bangladesh for transhumanism and for my campaign in particular.
All right. Thank you very much, Tom. And now let us go to Dr. Jose Cordero.
Hello. Greetings from Madrid, Spain. And congratulations in those activities, Tom, going to Bangladesh, and to our friend, Dr. Sharif in Dhaka, helping so much for you to understand a lot of the situation in Bangladesh and in South Asia. I grew up in Latin America, which is also a developing region. And my question to you, Tom, is if you have seen some parallelisms between other developing nations, not just Bangladesh, because also there has been a lot of innovation in Bangladesh. Like most people know about the Nobel Prize in Economics, Mohammed Yunus, who popularized the idea of microfinancing that he started in Bangladesh. So this was a very innovative concept idea that has been copied in other countries, including in Latin America, for example. So we have a lot to learn. And one thing that I I have noticed also is that in developing countries, we can leapfrog a lot of the development stages that other advanced economies have gone through, like Africa as well. They are going from no telephones to mobile telephones, from no electricity to solar panels, and so on and so forth. So many of these new technologies allow us to leapfrog into the future. So what is your take on that, Tom?
Yeah, there's a lot of parallels. And before we went on the air, you mentioned I said that I managed to get one vote because one of the advisors to the prime minister's mother-in-law was an American citizen, and you let me know that what's best to say U.S. citizen, because in Latin America, is still considered American. So that's an example of something I learned, is to quit being so America centric or U.S. centric, and so that was a good lesson. And but there are a lot of parallels, and just like you mentioned, I've been saying that developing world, developing countries, emergent nations have a real advantage over Americans or in Europe, because again, we have this need to keep the status quo. We have lobbyists. When I testified before Congress years ago in support of the anti-spam bill, that room was full of Verizon lobbyists. They understand they understand where to place all these technological lobbyists in the halls of power in Washington, D.C., because they want to keep things from getting out of hand. They want to keep the status quo. And there's so much infrastructure here in the States, for instance, of telephone wires and now cable, that they want to keep everything as is. And so there's a lot of effort to keep the status quo and to keep innovation at bay. And where, as in emergent nations, they don't have that issue. They don't have the infrastructure. So they're able to bring in brand new technologies, and like you said, leapfrog over a lot of the necessary steps that we had to go through to get to where we are. And so, like you said, solar power and cell phones, and it's a real important distinction that emergent nations have and can take advantage of. And what's most important is for their governments to understand that and to take advantage and to give tax incentives or whatever it takes to keep their people taking advantage and owning their fourth industrial revolution. And that was a big effort we had with TAS, was to enable Africans, who are the youngest generation on the planet right now. At that time, it was a median age of 18, 19 years old. And if we didn't help them as a world seize their fourth industrial revolution, the ripples will be catastrophic and global. And so it's very important to really invest in emergent nations in Latin America, in Africa, in Southeast Asia, because if we just keep things status quo, we're going to suffer globally. And so that's why it's really important to focus on these new technologies, to focus on young people. And, because millennials and younger are the biggest population we've seen since the baby boomers. They even outgrow the baby boom generation. And so it's really important to take them seriously, to listen to them, and to find out how they're using this new technology. When I was a national creative director in radio for years, and radio was losing listenership, fast. Young people weren't listening to radio anymore because radio wasn't cool anymore. They were downloading and making playlists on their MP3s and things like that. And so my idea was, we had over 100 or at the time 300 radio stations around the country. I said, let's just find some small radio station in some small town we're not using much, and give it over to high school students and see what they do with it. I wasn't taken up on this idea, but the idea was to find out what young people will do with a radio station and how they would use that medium of technology. And I think we need to do that now. We need to see how young people are using AI, how they're using cell phones and all these apps that are coming out, and pay attention to how they're using it. because that's how we'll know what to do with the future. And again, if we were able to let a bunch of high school students use a radio station for a semester, we would have learned so much about how to save radio or how to increase its potential to still be a relevant medium. Now I've got my own love for radio. It's the only thing that stays on the air in the time of catastrophe, and so it's important to keep radio around. But we really need to focus on how young people are using this new technology, and specifically young people in developing countries who don't have the fatigue, of the latest thing, and I've experienced that when I went to Kigali, Rwanda, a couple of years ago to do a talk at the Youth Connect conference, which is a continent-wide conference that converged on Kigali, Rwanda, and it was all these young people. And it really reinvigorated my interest in the world in general. It made me feel like I was 19 again, because there was all these young people that just were really excited about technology. They didn't have the fatigue that a lot of American or European youth might have about the latest technology or the latest apps. They're ready and they're willing to seize their fourth industrial revolution. And I'm seeing that in Bangladesh. I'm sure it's in Latin America, which I want to go to and travel more of. And that's the biggest thing we could be doing. And that's you nailed it when you talk about how these countries, these emergent nations, can leapfrog over the status quo that we experience here in America.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Tom. And indeed, I hope that the youth of the developing countries, though we all should be developing, but the youth in places like Bangladesh or in African countries will become the vanguard of change toward a transhumanist future. Now, we have an insightful comment by our friend Alan Crowley, who writes, "Depopulation is more likely than overpopulation on the planet. Conversely, urbanization is on the rise. Overcrowding might be a more helpful framework than overpopulation." And he invites thoughts on this. I do agree with his interpretation in the sense that we do have places in the world that are clearly overcrowded, and anybody who has been to a densely populated urban center can attest to that. But on the other hand, we have places like most of the state of Nevada in the United States, which are essentially barren, and sometimes one can drive 100 miles between small settlements. So the issue isn't so much that there are too many people overall on the planet, and indeed birth rates are declining now, and they're declining everywhere. It's just in certain countries, the absolute number of births per family is still higher, so the population is still growing. Yeah. But there is a need for infrastructure to accommodate people in countries where the birth rates are still absolutely high. So, Tom, what would you say to Alan's remarks and how we can frame this issue so that we can recognize both the infrastructure challenges that places like Bangladesh face? On the other hand, we can also recognize the importance of maintaining the people we have on this planet right now, because they are sources of creativity, innovation, new inventions, and of course we would want to preserve each individual for as long as possible. That is the purpose of the life extension movement and the imperative, in my view, to keep all of us alive indefinitely.
Yeah, Alan makes a great point. That's exactly why I kind of hesitated on saying overpopulation. He hit it on there's depopulation going on, but it is really the rise of overcrowding in urban areas that is the issue. And so, yeah, that's kind of why I kind of trailed off a little bit on using the word overpopulation. But yeah, that's important. And what opportunities like DACA gives us is the ability to create sustainable, smart buildings, high rises, and things to help also lessen the pollution that happens in these large urban areas. Make it more sustainable, more greenery, more oxygen. And it's a very good point. And I agree completely with Alan that it's not an overpopulation issue. It's an overcrowding in urban areas. And so I just didn't have the words at the time to put it that way. But yeah, it's important because we're going to see maybe more. There will be some sprawl, of course, happening, but there's going to be more intensity in large urban areas. And so in order to make them more sustainable, make them smarter, make them greener, we're going to need to focus on this technology, this building technology like Sharif's company is doing.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Tom. And Alan pointed out that some of this overcrowding problem is perhaps artificially generated. So some states, such as California, which has the greatest housing crisis in the United States, if not in the entire world, has laws against subdividing lots, even though such subdivision would enable small home communities. And it seems that a state like Texas, which has been historically more permissive in terms of allowing new construction, also may be jumping on that bandwagon of restrictive zoning policies, perhaps because there has been a lot of immigration from California to Texas, and unfortunately some of the restrictive anti-development mindsets from California are coming to other states. I know that's been the case in northern Nevada as well, unfortunately, but it does seem that there's this ingrained resistance to development, even though for many people living in, say, a tiny home is a huge step up from what they're used to, and living in a super tall skyscraper would be a huge step up from what they had available to them previously, where they might not have been able to access a home if the regulations require very large lots on which only a single home may be built. So hopefully in the United States, a lot of policymakers will rethink the zoning requirements to allow for a lot more infill, a lot more mixed use development, subdivision of lots, and just a greater variety of structures so that people at every point along the income spectrum could afford something.
Yeah, I think that gets back to Proposition 13, right? Jerry Brown's proposition, which at the time maybe sounded good, but now we need to really break that open. I'll have to research some more, but I think that has, there's no sunset clause in that proposition, so it's a tough one to break.
So now, along the lines of the future city concept in Bangladesh, I know, Jason, you wanted to comment on this picture in particular, but also on the concept more generally.
Yeah. See how there's like those scaffolding there? Wouldn't it be like super sweet if you know how there's like maker spaces where the community shares a 3D printer? Well, what if, up on the terraces there's the scaffolding to just bring the 3D printer right to their porch, and they can just print the stuff out, and then it can move to the next person, and the whole building shares the same 3D printer that makes all their stuff. That's it. What do you think about that idea?
Yeah, one thing I found was interesting in Dhaka was that the scaffolding they use is made out of bamboo. I first saw it at the father of the country's house, and I thought, well, maybe it's just a facade, kind of just show how things used to go back there. But no, they're using bamboo because it's very strong, very sturdy as scaffolding. So if we can get a 3D printer on some bamboo, that might work.
Yeah, bamboo's awesome.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yes, it's certainly a fascinating concept, and it would be interesting to see what architectural ideas will emerge from Bangladesh, especially using the local building materials there, and also trying to figure out what structures can be created to accommodate the needs of people at every income level. So this would be a great concept for people in a dense urban center like Dhaka, but a smart village likely will look quite a bit different, and perhaps there will be some bamboo structures. There may be some 3D printed homes there, but the key is to keep building and to keep innovating and to keep testing ideas. And I think Bangladesh would be a great testing ground. Now, in terms of what's happening in California, I just wanted to briefly remark on this. I did a little bit of research on California Proposition 13. That one had to do with limiting property tax increases. So I don't have a problem with that, because I actually think all property taxes are horrible for the goal, which is to maximize home ownership, because with property taxes, even if you're not earning an income, you still have to pay money in order to be able to live in your home, which means people with fixed incomes, or people who are retired, or people who are unable to work for whatever reason could be priced out of their homes because of increasing property taxes. And the U.S. Transhumanist Party in its platform actually seeks to abolish all property taxes and all income taxes and replace them with a single percentage of sales tax solely pertaining to sales from large businesses, which already have the infrastructure to collect these sales taxes and remit them to the federal government. And this is specifically to free ordinary individuals from the burdens of paying taxes even if they don't do anything, or having to report their income, which is the most onerous part of today's income tax regime. It's not the amount of money you have to pay, it's all of the trouble you have to go through to fill out a tax return every single year. But in terms of home ownership and having a place to live, my view is that should be made as easy as possible for people. And the only way to make it as easy as possible is to build a lot more than in the United States especially has been built most recently. And hopefully in countries like Bangladesh, if some of these smart city concepts or smart village concepts take off, they will be seen as inspiration for the Western world. There's another quite interesting development in the United Kingdom. It's a settlement very different from the smart city concepts that have been discussed. It's a lot more traditional in nature. It's called Poundbury. It's in Dorsetshire in the south of England, and it's actually an initiative of King Charles III. It was started back when he was Prince Charles, but the idea was to create a kind of model settlement with very pleasant architecture, very livable settlement where there's still a role for cars, but it's a limited role in that the streets are specifically made a bit challenging for cars to navigate to encourage more pedestrian use. But this was a development that now has several thousands of people living in there. It is very pleasant to visit and observe the architecture in. And what was interesting was how efficiently they were able to construct it. But I think it was because in England, even though England's monarchy doesn't have a lot of political influence, it does have a lot of social influence still. And someone like King Charles could be a thought leader. And he could say, I have this concept of essentially his view of what a smart city should be. And he had the land, he had the support to build this settlement, even though sometimes these kinds of developments can be politically controversial in the UK, just as they would be in the US, because every country has its constituencies to oppose development. But he could do it. Whereas in the United States, it's difficult to conceive of even very wealthy and influential people having that degree of influence to be able to push through a project like that. Case in point was an effort by Jeffrey Burns, who is the CEO of Blockchains LLC. He moved his company to Northern Nevada, and in 2021, he tried creating a smart city in Story County, Nevada. He acquired a lot of land. He acquired the majority of Story County, which is to the east of Reno. It is also where the Tesla Gigafactory is based. So Story County was historically more open to business development, but a lot of the populace there are NIMBYists in terms of residential development. So they lobbied heavily against it. And even though Jeffrey Burns appealed to, at that time, Steve Sisolak, the Democratic governor of Nevada, and Steve Sisolak wanted to provide some support, he couldn't get the partisans on the Democratic Party side to buy into the prospect because they thought it would look too much like a company town, even though that wasn't at all what the concept behind the smart city was. It would be a high-tech smart city that would be self-governing as soon as it reached a population of 100 people. Whereas on the Republican side, of course, given the adversarial dynamics of American politics, they wanted to lambast any initiative that the Democratic governor was promoting. So everybody on the right side of the political spectrum in Nevada was opposed to the smart city concept. And indeed, the only political party that wrote anything in support of this smart city concept was the Transhumanist Party. We actually sent a letter to the special study committee that was evaluating this concept, but eventually Jeffrey Burns just gave up in frustration because he couldn't get political buy-in from the two major parties. So the difference between that system and the system in the UK is that in the UK, there's still enough respect for the monarchy that the monarchy is seen as above the political fray. And so somebody like King Charles could have an idea and just say, let's test it out with, of course, private money, so taxpayers weren't on the hook for it. But I think in Bangladesh, something similar may be happening with Sheikh Hasina as the prime minister, because she has a lot of influence and she has a lot of respect among the people of Bangladesh. She's the daughter of the founder of Bangladesh. And perhaps that is what is needed to push these ideas through. As we've seen in Dubai, for instance, the leadership of Dubai, the Sheikh of Dubai was able to be extremely influential in getting the numerous high-rise buildings there constructed. And in Saudi Arabia, for all of his flaws, the current prince, essentially, Mohammed bin Salman, he does have the concept of smart city, the NEOM smart city, which is essentially a horizontal linear city, but it would have a lot of high-rise buildings as well. So I do think there is a role for influential figures to break through the political logjam. And this is where countries that don't have the American problem of gridlock can have more inroads made into that area. So I would invite some thoughts on this idea.
Well, I would do a shout out to Mike DeVerde and his agroforester idea, and I think Sharif already knows probably and has already did some shows with Mike about that the homelessness problem and that, and I think the model that Mike's kind of got in mind is a really good idea and could be replicated anywhere. But you know, that's it. If somebody else wants to jump on there, go ahead. Passing the baton back.
Yes. So, Tom, any comments on this idea that perhaps having the support of influential figures could help with making these kinds of smart developments happen?
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about that a little bit last week when I was there, about how, you know, the American democracy is purposely slow. It's got the balances of power that make it very difficult to make quick decisions. You know, unlike a China, which has an authoritarian regime that can decide to do something and the next day it's done. And so that's a bit of a liability as an American that we can't act quickly, especially now with the divided houses, that it's very difficult to even, get anything passed, because of this whole divide and rule situation we've got, we'll always have had, but now it's really amped up. And so it's going to be very difficult to get anything done quickly. That's part of this whole, issue of not being able to make quick moves, the status quo, the biases and the algorithms that have divided us so well are on autopilot now. And so so a country like China or Soviet Union, or I'm sorry, Russia, there's my age showing, can make quick decisions and global national decisions quickly. And so it's difficult, but so that's why it requires an issue that whether it's a figure like King Charles or somebody above the politics. Here, I would think it used to have been, in my view, would maybe Tesla or Elon Musk would have been a good choice, but not anymore. I don't think he's gone too deep, too right, I think. And so there's not a whole lot of stock put in his opinion anymore, in my view. And so it's difficult to find the right person who is above both political biases to push anything through, at least in America. And so, but yeah, I think we have an opportunity in Bangladesh, regardless of what country we're from or who we are, to really push forward the transhumanist movement and agenda and test and measure our ideas there. So yeah, and also Prince Charles has always been, even back in the 70s, I remember that people would complain about him because he was into homeopathic remedies. He was very kind of a hippie prince at the time and pushing all these ideas. And so I think a lot of that's worn off, where they don't see him as credited as much. Now that he's king, it'll be easier to take him more seriously. But yeah, I think it's going to be difficult to do this kind of thing in America. But when you have a Saudi Arabia that can make decisions because the king says so, or the kingdom wants it, we're going to see a lot of changes there in those areas. And again, Sheikh Hassani is very revered in Bangladesh as the daughter of the founder of the country, father of the country, the daughter of the country. And so she's got a lot of pull. And so anything that she gets behind, people will, in Bangladesh specifically, and also in India, will take notice of it. There's a strong relationship between India and Bangladesh, which I got a real familiarity with while I was there. A lot of panels, and about the double engine of growth that both India and Bangladesh share. And but yeah, so it's really important to focus on what's possible in these emergent nations. There's a lot of economic growth in Bangladesh over the last 10 years since she became prime minister. And so it's really important to see where they can go and to be part of it, try to be some part of it for our own good as Americans or as anyone outside of Bangladesh, to be part of this growth and part of this revolution that's happening there.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Tom. And Sharif, perhaps you have some thoughts on this as well.
Yes. Actually, like next time when Tom and other Transhumanist Party's member come, if you come at least for 1 week, then you can visit more interesting project. For this smart city projects and deep sea port, we call it Matarbari. Japan government, the Matarbari project, which is very interesting. It's looked like Singapore. The whole plan like Singapore in Bangladesh, and it's supported by Japan government. My company, we are developing housing and the commercial places. It's called Mireshwarai. Mireshwarai is the largest economic zone in Bangladesh, and we are developing these projects. And many largest company from around the world, like automobile companies, then the pharmaceuticals companies, everybody they come here, and it's near the Bay of Bengal. So strategically, Jason is correct. Bangladesh is in between China and Bangladesh, India, and we have Bay of Bengal. Bay of Bengal is very important. That's why some deep sea ports and smart city projects and economic zone is happening. Me and my corporations actually working on this area. So if you want to contribute in the real time projects, you can. And next time when you come, if you have at least 1 week of time, and then you can visit the real projects and can make some plan for making this, what Tom says, transhumanist Makkah. We have a lot of opportunities. So I want to invite you all.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Sharif. And now we have about 18 minutes left in our salon. I want to make sure all the panelists have the opportunity to ask some questions. So, Jason, do you have any more questions for Tom and or Sharif?
Yeah, when we're talking about geopolitics and strategy and all of this stuff, okay, it's really about energy and food. And so Bangladesh is an energy importer. Okay. India is an energy importer. China is an energy importer. And so as a country, you want to secure them two things. The geopolitical landscape in the last, 10 years or so has changed because the United States changed from being an energy importer to being an energy exporter. So if Bangladesh can achieve energy independence through green energy, that would be a dynamic, strategically stabilizing thing, and so the technologies are out there to do it, and so it's possible, and the tools, the AI tools that are coming out today, really any Joe Schmo with a laptop can do a lot, a lot. So, as far as the food would be the other thing that you would need to secure. That comes down to fertilizer, and so if one had energy independence already through green tech, then whatever you could import stuff to make fertilizer, you'd need like still some fossil fuels to make fertilizer. We love to dream about everything being green energy, but we still got to remember that we live in a world that's still based on fossil fuels. People are dependent on this stuff, and so when we're talking about the geopolitical landscape, it it still very much depends on oil. Let's be real. So, Bangladesh would have possible unique opportunity to sidestep that whole dependence on that and go into green energy. I would love to see that. And then Bangladesh doesn't have to worry about India or China wanting to do whatever they don't, what I mean? Energy independence gives you a lot of strategic security. It's the reason why the United States don't have to have 1 million destroyers controlling the whole ocean anymore. Now we're really carrier heavy. Although, I've been thinking about it, and drone technology is going to change the whole military landscape to where we could maybe still have a globalization kind of world where we can patrol all that stuff with drones and do it way cheaper. But the fact remains that if the United States doesn't have energy or has energy independence, the United States doesn't have to do it anymore. And so it's not that necessarily we've, just all of a sudden decided to be isolationist or start trending away from globalization. It's that we don't have to anymore. But there's other countries that still do. China is still super dependent on oil that goes, and the dynamics of the Ukraine war is going to impact the food supply. It's going to impact the fertilizer supply. So that would be my advice, probably. Use AI to figure out how to get energy independence. And with that, I'll toss it back.
Yes, thank you, Jason. And I completely agree that energy independence is a worthwhile goal. Indeed, one can note that as the United States became a net exporter of energy rather than a net importer of energy, its degree of intervention in the Middle East also greatly diminished. And I think there was a rationale for that. So now let us see if some of our other panelists have further questions. David, based on the conversation that you've heard, do you have any additional questions or comments?
Well, it's been, a fascinating conversation. I want to go back to the idea of research in Bangladesh. As I think about it here in the United States, research universities, private research by companies, it seems to be what is done. I'm not familiar with what research looks like, say, in a country like Bangladesh, but I think I understand why it would be valuable. So I'm curious why there's opposition to the idea of fundamental research in Bangladesh. Is it the investment that it would take from the government? Is it the unclear ideas about perhaps what niche or what specific areas that the research should be in? I don't know, Tom or Sharif, do either of you have comments on that? I find it interesting.
Yeah, I'll let Sharif take it. He's got a lot of ideas with regard to this.
Okay, thank you. Actually, like when I come back to Bangladesh after 7 years, our World Talent Economy Forum advocating for modern science, engineering, and technology, especially doing research. Why it's happening? If you see Bangladesh independent 1971, and most of the cases our corporate cultures, it's look like plug and play, more like marketings, like bringing the technology example from China or product from India or from USA or from Europe and sell it to the market. So you see that what actually Tom focused on the young generations. We have brain drain. Many brilliant people or brilliant researchers, they go abroad, they live in USA or North America or in Australia or Europe, and they try to develop their career. So that's why I'm focusing on this research and innovations. Example, the last show on this Nikola Tesla technologies, I request the Transhumanist Party. We can do research on hydrogen fuel, right? With Mr. Nelson, I request that we can collaborate and we can do research. This is very fundamental. I think Tom also shared with me, Bangladesh has a lot of river. So we have water. So water is the source of energy. So green energy. So we can utilize it. So we have to do research on that particular area. let's say we discuss about drone. So we have to build up our own thing. Yes, different countries, company can come, but definitely we have to do our own research and innovation. So most of the cases, if you see our economy based on garments, foreign remittance, and step by step different manufacturing happening. So right now, our Prime Minister, also our World Talent Economy Forum, we are strongly advocating for research and innovation because of the cultures. The businessmen want to make easy money through sales and marketing, so they are not focusing on that area. So I try to do so. I think that when we are in Asanullah University, that me and Tom, we have to argue with a lot of academicians why the industrial research is important for Bangladesh. Last month, I visit IIT Kanpur. We are collaborate with IIT Kanpur and India Prime Minister Office and their business ministry. So India playing a major role for research and innovations. They do excellent job for research and innovation. If you go to this IIT Kanpur, you can find that Indian Prime Minister invests a lot of money and they get a huge return on investment on research and innovations, like $3 billion company valuation right now they have. So I also request the same thing to our Prime Minister Office, to our academicians, to our corporations. If India can do, we can do the same thing. So that's why Transhumanist Party also important for me. And I think that Tom also know that when I introduce Mr. Tom and introduce Transhumanist Party, I request everyone that Transhumanist Party has a lot of researcher, lot of scientists. They can be helpful and valuable for our country. I think this is one of the strong strategic way Transhumanist Party can collaborate with Bangladesh and South Asia. And definitely this is 2.5 billion people market. You can do many things. You can do energy related activities. You can do your health and longevity related activities. You can do housing related projects. You can do any kind of commercial things. And there is a huge opportunity. It's a very, very big market. And I was in like Malaysia, Singapore, and China this region. South Asia is more open. Recently, Apple opened their business operations in India. South Asia is more proactive. We are more welcoming, and I think it's a huge opportunity for all of us. We have to think properly. We have to do more research, and we have to bring the prosper and opportunity for the local communities in South Asia.
Yes, thank you very much, Sharif, for highlighting all of the opportunities that could be pursued in these new communities within Bangladesh and hopefully other Southeast Asian countries. Now let us go to Brent Elman to see if he has any further questions or comments.
Thank you. I just, it's just really inspiring to see this all transpire. We've all been connecting for so long, Tom, Dr. Sharif, especially through the World Talent Economy Forum. So, the last remark that I want to make is just a gratitude to see how things are progressing. And, I think this is very encouraging, to see how Tom was, visiting Bangladesh and getting some face-to-face time with Dr. Sharif. And I really hope that this trend can continue and that we can continue to work towards some of these goals that we've been discussing today, working towards some of these smart developments, tech-heavy cities and settlements and things like that. It's just, there's just so much, there's so many places to go from here. And I just want to reiterate that it's very inspiring to see where we've come. And, I'm looking forward to seeing where we are in 5 years, 10 years from now. Thanks again, Tom, joining, Dr. Sharif, and everyone else. Cheers.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much for those good words, Brent. And now let's go to Art Ramon Garcia.
I'll go ahead and direct a question towards Tom. Now, as a foreigner with fresh foreigner eyes, Did you see any sort of low-hanging fruit ideas or suggestions that you could make to Sharif in general? Like, oh, this could be a little bit better, and vice versa. Did you see anything there that is being done better than here? So, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, a few actually. Well, let's see. First of all, it was great to meet Sharif in person, and to meet his lovely wife and his mother. That was probably the best part of this whole trip, was actually to be in person with him. But as I drove around, now Dhaka is considered the traffic capital of the world, and what was fascinating was that everyone was, there were stoplights there, but they didn't work, or they didn't care to work, and so this mass of rickshaws and little cars and big cars just moving all around. It was just so fascinating, and all these cars had their own conversation going with horns, and I noticed that right away. It's like you're just letting somebody know you're behind them or get around them or whatever, and all these cars were just having this conversation. And but I also started thinking about one of the low-hanging fruit was wondering, with the respect that the country has for their prime minister, that there could be more effort in, like, this Dhaka is a fascinating city in its own right, not only for the traffic and the way that there's no accidents. It was just amazing to see, people are coming and going, but there's never really any accidents. I mean, the buses all have dents, over time they all have dents because that's just the way they work. But I noticed that there was the one way that could make this city itself even more attractive is there were certain areas where there was maybe litter on the streets or whatever. And so I started thinking, well, how do you motivate the young people? How do you maybe do an app or something that would motivate young people to get more money by just cleaning up an area or something? So that started coming to mind, because we have a lot of places here in Denver that could use this too. Where there's parts of the city that are just, there's litter everywhere. So how do you get young people involved, just to take, pride in the city and to just clean up certain areas? And so that was one of the ideas that came to mind. It would be like one way the prime minister could really just increase economy within that city would be to help young people who are often out there selling whatever wares. There's a lot of great street food. And so everyone's just working so hard. All these rickshaws, these people that are just working to travel people around, everybody is trying to make a living there. But in some cases that they could really, one of the low-hanging fruits I saw was, how do you help young people help clean up the city, so that when Westerners come, certain areas don't look so bad or whatever. But, that was one idea that came to mind. But so it's also a cultural thing. It's like, they say that no man is a prophet in his hometown. So as a foreigner coming from America, people listened to me, whereas here they wouldn't give me the time of day, so there's some of that going on. But I think there's a real opportunity to just give ideas. And if we had this transhumanist mecca, this transhumanist village, where we could try different social services and different things, where we were creating apps for the young people in that village to keep an area clean for some money, there's all those types of things that could be scaled to help Dhaka. There's so much going on, so much potential in that city that's already being realized, with this economic boom that they're going through, and these great projects like the central bank's tower and building. There's so much happening there, but just the little things that, like, a Westerner might notice just like in here, just like in Denver or different cities around the world that are in the country that could need some cleaning up in certain areas. There's a way to do that to where it actually boosts the economy of the locals, and specifically young people. And so that was one of the ideas that came to mind. There's many others. I've got notes and notes of ideas that would help.
Yes.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can discuss more of these ideas at future virtual enlightenment salons, but the possibility of solving Dhaka's traffic issues is indeed a promising one. I would encourage anybody who is interested in this to look up images of Dhaka traffic. They are really quite startling. But anyway, thank you so much, Tom, for discussing some of the highlights of your visit to Bangladesh. And thank you, of course, to Sharif for joining us today and providing the perspective from Bangladesh. We are always quite pleased to have these conversations that really broaden our awareness of what is happening in the world and how emerging technologies could make life better for so many people. And thank you, of course, to our panel, to our audience. As always, we really appreciate everyone's participation. And until next time, live long and prosper.